Welcome to the Audiobook Vault. Today, our book is about the unyielding architectural principles of mechanical capitalization and the systematic engineering strategies required to construct an absolute cash machine capable of generating high-density passive income streams that run and profit while your physical vessel is in a state of absolute sleep and deep neurosomatic recovery. The modern financial matrix has conditioned the fragile retail masses to accept the toxic, submissive delusion that the only legitimate pathway to wealth accumulation is the continuous transactional sale of their limited biological hours for a fixed nominal wage. Let us be entirely clinical and strip away the protective corporate lies from the very first seconds of this elite audio transmission. Selling your physical time for a linear salary is a form of refined industrial servitude designed to keep your conscious mainframe permanently trapped on a low-leverage economic treadmill where your survival parameters are entirely dependent on the continuous approval of an institutional employer. True financial sovereignty completely rejects this exhausting manual labor model. You understand that time is the absolute premium currency of existence, and that to build a real multi-generational empire, you must systematically decouple your wealth generation velocity from your physical presence. This book is not a collection of superficial retail tricks or low-margin marketing schemes. It is a surgical blueprint engineered to help you design independent, self-regulating, automated asset grids that capture, redistribute, and compound digital capital 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, forcing the global economic matrix to feed your private vault while you remain completely uninvolved in the low-level noise of everyday operational maintenance. Have you ever paused to analyze the deep behavioral divergence between the 99% of individuals who spend their entire adult lives burning their physical health to pay off compounding institutional debts and the elite 1% of sovereign operators who continuously expand their capital kingdoms while traveling the world in absolute leisure? Have you ever wondered why the vast majority of traditional entrepreneurs burn out within their first 3 years of business operations despite working 80 hours a week, while elite systemic architects manage vast portfolios of automated cash flow with less than 4 hours of weekly manual oversight? This stark divide does not exist because those elite actors possess a superior genetic intellect or access to hidden macroeconomic secrets. It exists because they have permanently purged the employee mindset from their conscious servers and adopted the clinical engineering principles of passive income systems. The average professional steps into the market looking for a job or a service contract to perform. The sovereign architect steps into the arena looking for structural fault lines where they can install a permanent mechanical pipeline that automates the collection of transaction tolls. They look at the global economic landscape not as a place to work, but as a massive, fluid distribution network filled with continuous traffic lanes that can be trapped, redirected, and harvested through the construction of digital property rights, high-margin software platforms, and self-regulating organizational protocols. To implement this elite financial architecture within your reality, you must immediately execute the behavioral transition from active manual production to sovereign systemic engineering. The unvetted individual approaches wealth creation by asking, how can I perform this task myself to maximize my short-term revenue share, which instantly caps their operational scale to the physical limitations of their own body. The steel mind completely bypasses this biological bottleneck by operating through the supreme law of modular structural design. Before you deploy a single unit of capital or attention into a new business vector, you do not ask how to operate the machinery. You design the underlying code, the automated workflows, and the contractual outsourcing matrices that allow the machinery to run autonomously from day one. You structure your enterprise as an insulated digital fortress where customer acquisition, payment processing, fulfillment delivery, and customer support are entirely handled by synchronized software applications and automated algorithmic logic channels. Your physical vessel remains completely separated from the everyday mechanics of execution, allowing your conscious mind to sit at the absolute center of the enterprise as a quiet, detached observer who monitors the data dashboards with absolute coldness, while the automated cash machine compounding your capital works non-stop in the background. This extreme structural insulation prepares your system for the clinical deployment of high-margin digital asset matrices that require zero inventory maintenance and zero physical fulfillment costs. The amateur wealth builder attempts to construct traditional retail businesses that carry massive overhead liabilities, such as physical storefronts, heavy shipping logistics, and volatile supply chain dependencies, which instantly drains their liquidity and forces them to spend their entire day micromanaging employees and placating angry customers. The sovereign completely eliminates these physical vulnerabilities by focusing their strategic attention on the creation and acquisition of infinite leverage digital assets. You build automated software-as-a-service platforms, elite content syndication ecosystems, and proprietary digital intellectual property rights that can be duplicated and distributed millions of times across the global web at absolute zero marginal cost. When a customer across the world purchases access to your digital protocol at 3 o'clock in the morning, your automated gateway processes the payment, clears the transaction, and grants instantaneous access without requiring a single manual keystroke from your infrastructure, allowing you to wake up to a highly pristine, automated balance sheet. To advance into the second layer of mechanical capitalization, you must master precise structural engineering of self-operating digital software-as-a-service nodes and the selection of high-margin micro-utilities that require absolute zero structural maintenance. The average internet entrepreneur or retail marketer drifts through the digital landscape searching for broad viral trends or bloated complex software concepts that require multi-million-dollar development budgets, heavy customer onboarding cycles, and a massive internal department of engineers just to handle technical errors and continuous updates. This hyper-complex infrastructure is a catastrophic operational error that destroys your passive income velocity. It chains your conscious mind to a continuous cycle of code micromanagement, transforming your vessel from a sovereign system architect into a high-stressed technical support operator for a fragile customer network. The sovereign completely rejects this high-maintenance model. You understand that a true automated cash machine relies on systemic minimalism and algorithmic stability. You look for tight, high-density micro-niches where a simple, lightweight digital protocol solves an acute, high-leverage problem for an enterprise client who is perfectly willing to pay a recurring monthly subscription fee to keep the utility running in their background without ever requiring a single interaction with your physical perimeter. This automated software architecture requires the immediate implementation of the static utility asset protocol and the total exclusion of human-dependent service features. The Steel Mind focuses its developmental capital exclusively on software structures that operate via frozen, unchanging code logic. You do not build platforms that rely on continuous manual data inputs, content creation, or human-driven consultation loops. You engineer automated script engines, browser extensions, data scraping pipelines, and specialized API integration bridges that perform their functional utility via pure mathematical repetition. Once the underlying code architecture is fully written, tested, and deployed onto cloud-based servers, your development cycle is permanently concluded. The system becomes a set-and-forget digital pipeline that handles thousands of concurrent users with zero marginal increase in operational friction or infrastructure cost. Your software server sits quietly on the global web, running its pre-calculated routines and collecting subscription payments via automated billing processors, while your internal neurological bandwidth remains completely free to explore new vertical expansion vectors. Furthermore, we must dissect the supreme law of the zero-touch acquisition engine and the absolute automation of the customer conversion funnel.
The unvetted business builder destroys their passive income framework by building a sales process that requires manual outreach, live presentation calls, and continuous interpersonal negotiation to close a transaction. This active sales dependency forces you to trade your personal biological time for customer acquisition, capping your revenue scale to your daily energetic limits. The Sovereign constructs a completely hands-off conversion matrix that operates with the cold, mechanical precision of a high-velocity conversion
Algorithm. You deploy automated search engine optimization frameworks, targeted landing pages featuring hyper-compressed copy and short video demonstrations that instantly establish the utility value of your platform. When a high-value enterprise prospect lands on your digital interface, they do not click a button to schedule a meeting with a sales representative. They enter their corporate credit card data, click an absolute authorization button, and instantly activate their account through an automated webhook sequence, allowing your vault to capture capital non-stop while you are entirely absent from the theater of execution. This algorithmic automation prepares your system for the clinical execution of the infinite customer retention matrix. True passive income velocity is reached when your recurring revenue baseline continuously compounds month over month because your existing customer nodes are structurally locked into your protocol. You engineer your micro-utility to weave itself directly into the daily operational infrastructure of your client's enterprise, making it an indispensable part of their administrative workflow. When the software becomes an automatic utility that quietly saves them hundreds of hours of manual labor every single month, the client will submissively pay the recurring monthly invoice for years without ever thinking about canceling their subscription. Your digital platform transforms into an unhackable, self-sustaining annuity grid that pulls capital out of the global corporate ecosystem and drops it directly into your treasury, ensuring that your multi-generational empire compounds its wealth in absolute serenity, stability, and eternal financial sovereignty. To advance into the third layer of mechanical capitalization, you must master the structural design of automated content syndication networks and the tactical construction of media property monopolies that secure high-volume advertising revenues and continuous royalty distributions without your physical voice or creative writing input ever entering the production pipeline. The average content entrepreneur or retail digital marketer enters the media space operating under the fragile assumption that to build a successful digital audience and capture monetization placement, they must personally act as the on-screen brand ambassador, continuously filming lifestyle vlogs, editing daily reels, and scripting individual blog posts to maintain relevance. This hyperactive personal presence model is a catastrophic structural blind spot that binds your personal freedom to the volatile feedback loops of digital social media algorithms, transforming your daily schedule into an exhausting, manual laboratory of continuous content generation. The Sovereign completely rejects this ego-driven approach to media creation. You look at the media landscape through the cold lens of systemic data infrastructure, understanding that attention can be mapped, aggregated, and monetized using highly predictable content production systems that utilize raw textual scripts engineered for immediate deployment into high-density voice synthesis engines and automated visual generation workflows. This media automation blueprint requires the immediate deployment of the decentralized automated video generation pipeline. The SteelMind treats video and audio media assets as modular packages of code logic. You do not spend hours manually editing footage or sitting behind a microphone. You establish a highly streamlined production engine where a single baseline concept is systematically expanded into a multi-part script using advanced informational frameworks designed to hit precise mathematical target word counts. The raw text inputs are generated using strict formatting protocols that completely eliminate the inclusion of chapter titles, part numbers, or internal structural headers to allow for instantaneous copy-pasting directly into high-fidelity voice cloning interfaces.
You coordinate a decentralized system of independent automated channels that utilize high-frequency psychological and behavioral science content focused on elite mindsets, social intelligence, and internal power dynamics under an insulated corporate brand architecture. Your video generation interfaces automatically sync the synthetic voiceovers with targeted thematic stock footage, visual effects, and structural audio patterns that lock viewer retention metrics far above the standard industry support lines, converting raw informational data into a massive cash-generating machine while your conscious presence remains completely anonymous. Furthermore, we must dissect the supreme law of algorithmic SEO-driven frame capture and the tactical weaponization of established cultural franchises. The unvetted media creator attempts to build an audience from absolute zero by relying on artistic originality or unpredictable viral trends, which introduces extreme volatility into their monthly revenue distribution. The sovereign architect bypasses this discovery friction by systematically anchoring their media properties onto high-density search queries and established pop culture intellectual properties that command massive pre-existing global traffic lanes. You design calculated point-of-view, alternative narrative scenarios leveraging globally dominant cinematic universes like Marvel and Disney, or high-frequency educational formats such as historical daily life scenarios in ancient war zones to capture immediate search engine placement. By integrating highly engineered patterns like a continuous introductory pattern interruption, precise transformation promises, and strategic curiosity gaps within the exact opening 2 minutes of your audiovisual media assets, you permanently neutralize audience drop-off and force the platform recommendation engines to systematically push your automated channels to the absolute center of the digital marketplace. This systematic visibility transforms your automated media properties into a collection of self-sustaining, high-yield annuity grids. Once a critical mass
Structured content assets is successfully uploaded and index linked into the global search ecosystems, the distribution of views and ad impressions becomes a permanent, self-perpetuating cycle that operates with complete structural predictability. Your media assets quietly generate programmatic ad revenues, corporate sponsorship placements, and high-margin product affiliate commissions 24 hours a day without requiring a single manual content update to your active library. The system becomes a digital real estate portfolio that captures global attention capital and drops continuous cash distributions directly into your treasury, ensuring that your sovereign economic empire compounds its underlying net worth in absolute stability, absolute serenity, and eternal financial freedom. To advance into the fourth layer of mechanical capitalization, you must master the structural engineering of zero-inventory e-commerce matrices and the tactical deployment of print-on-demand architectures and digital informational products that execute, fulfill, and distribute automatically the exact millisecond a transaction clears your gateway. The average retail e-commerce merchant enters the physical product arena operating under the fragile assumption that to build a sustainable commercial brand, they must source thousands of physical units from overseas manufacturers, manage complex warehouse logistics, and absorb the immense financial risk of unsold inventory hanging on their balance sheet. This physical asset dependency is a catastrophic operational error that drains your liquid corporate reserves and traps your conscious focus in a continuous cycle of supply chain micromanagement, transforming your vessel into an exhausted warehouse coordinator for a volatile consumer network. The sovereign completely rejects this asset-heavy approach to product commerce. You look at the e-commerce landscape through the cold lens of systemic infrastructure, understanding that consumer goods can be completely dematerialized into digital design assets that sit quietly on cloud servers until a buyer triggers an automated print-on-demand hook or unlocks a high-density digital download sequence that requires absolute zero manual handling from your infrastructure.
This automated commerce model requires the immediate implementation of the digital mock-up syndication protocol and the total removal of capital exposure from your product pipeline. The Steel Mind focuses its operational design exclusively on products that exist as pure informational code before the moment of sale. You partner with advanced decentralized print-on-demand fulfillment networks and digital distribution platforms that are entirely linked into your digital storefront through automated application programming interfaces. You do not print apparel, manufacture custom wall art, or package educational guides beforehand. You upload pristine, high-resolution digital assets into your online matrix, where they are displayed as virtual product nodes to the global consumer pool. When a customer structured content assets is successfully uploaded and index linked into the global search ecosystems, the distribution of views and ad impressions becomes a permanent, self-perpetuating cycle that operates with complete structural predictability. Your media assets quietly generate programmatic ad revenues, corporate sponsorship placements, and high-margin product affiliate commissions 24 hours a day without requiring a single manual content update to your active library. The system becomes a digital real estate portfolio that captures global attention capital and drops continuous cash distributions directly into your treasury, ensuring that your sovereign economic empire compounds its underlying net worth in absolute stability, absolute serenity, and eternal financial freedom. To advance into the fourth layer of mechanical capitalization, you must master the structural engineering of zero-inventory e-commerce matrices and the tactical deployment of print-on-demand architectures and digital informational products that execute, fulfill, and distribute automatically the exact millisecond a transaction clears your gateway. The average retail e-commerce merchant enters the physical product arena operating under the fragile assumption that to build a sustainable commercial brand, they must source thousands of physical units from overseas manufacturers, manage complex warehouse logistics, and absorb the immense financial risk of unsold inventory hanging on their balance sheet. This physical asset dependency is a catastrophic operational error that drains your liquid corporate reserves and traps your conscious focus in a continuous cycle of supply chain micromanagement, transforming your vessel into an exhausted warehouse coordinator for a volatile consumer network. The sovereign completely rejects this asset-heavy approach to product commerce. You look at the e-commerce landscape through the cold lens of systemic infrastructure, understanding that consumer goods can be completely dematerialized into digital design assets that sit quietly on cloud servers until a buyer triggers an automated print-on-demand hook or unlocks a high-density digital download sequence that requires absolute zero manual handling from your infrastructure. This automated commerce model requires the immediate implementation of the digital mock-up syndication protocol and the total removal of capital exposure from your product pipeline. The Steel Mind focuses its operational design exclusively on products that exist as pure informational code before the moment of sale. You partner with advanced decentralized print-on-demand fulfillment networks and digital distribution platforms that are entirely linked into your digital storefront through automated application programming interfaces. You do not print apparel, manufacture custom wall art, or package educational guides beforehand. You upload pristine, high-resolution digital assets into your online matrix, where they are displayed as virtual product nodes to the global consumer pool. When a customer
Executes a purchase, your automated payment processor captures the capital, clears your profit margin, and immediately passes the raw production cost along with the customer's shipping coordinates directly to the fulfillment center via an automated webhook. The third-party printing network automatically manufactures the item, packages it securely, and ships it directly to the customer's perimeter under your private brand label, without you ever seeing, touching, or manually processing the physical asset, allowing your vault to secure premium revenue margins in absolute isolation.
Furthermore, we must dissect the supreme law of algorithmic market placement and the structural weaponization of pre-existing consumer traffic channels. The unvetted e-commerce merchant attempts to drive sales by launching expensive, unpredictable paid advertising campaigns on social media platforms, which introduces extreme financial volatility and continuously eats into their net profit margins. The sovereign architect completely bypasses this expensive discovery friction by systematically launching their automated product matrices directly within established global marketplaces that possess massive pre-existing traffic lanes and high-intent buyer ecosystems. You deploy highly optimized keyword tags, precise listing layouts, and hyper-compressed product descriptions that hook into the native search engines of these platforms, forcing their organic recommendation logic to push your digital listings to the absolute center of the consumer's field of vision. By designing products that cater to tight, passion-driven micro-niches, custom corporate events, or high-frequency cultural trends, you ensure an immediate, consistent flow of organic purchase transactions that run entirely independent of your daily energetic inputs or advertising capital deployment. This algorithmic automation transforms your digital listings into a collection of self-sustaining, cash-generating asset grids. Once your catalog of optimized digital nodes is fully indexed across the global marketplace networks, the distribution of purchase events becomes a permanent, self-perpetuating cycle that operates with complete structural predictability. Your storefronts quietly capture transactions, clear high-margin profits, and execute automated fulfillment subroutines 24 hours a day without requiring a single hour of manual operational supervision from your leadership. The enterprise operates as a decentralized digital toll booth that automatically harvests global consumer demand and drops clean capital distributions directly into your private treasury, ensuring that your sovereign economic empire compounds its underlying net worth in absolute stability, absolute serenity, and eternal financial freedom. To advance into the fifth layer of mechanical capitalization, you must master the structural engineering of automated affiliate marketing funnels and the tactical construction of closed-loop digital review engines that permanently redirect consumer purchase intent into lifetime commission distributions without your active sales presentation input. The average affiliate marketer enters the digital space operating under the fragile assumption that to generate commission revenue, they must constantly post product links on their personal social media profiles, record unboxing videos, and beg their small personal network to purchase through their links to capture a tiny fractional reward. This hyperactive manual promotion model is a catastrophic operational error that keeps your revenue velocity entirely dependent on short-term social media visibility and continuous personal output, transforming your vessel into a frantic online street vendor. The sovereign completely rejects this low-leverage methodology. You view affiliate marketing through the cold lens of systematic search architecture, understanding that consumer demand can be structurally trapped at the absolute point of purchase intent by building authority-driven digital comparison portals and automated recommendation matrices that run entirely on cloud-based servers. This automated referral blueprint requires the immediate implementation of the algorithmic comparison engine and the total removal of qualitative human opinion from your review interfaces. The SteelMind focuses its developmental capital exclusively on structural search engine optimization and high-intent informational assets. You do not write personal blog posts or create lifestyle product reviews. You build automated web scraping comparison portals, data-driven product matrix grids, and technical software evaluation funnels that automatically consolidate technical specifications, consumer pricing data, and user feedback loops across an entire industry sector. Once your digital real estate is fully engineered and index-linked into global search ecosystems, it acts as a permanent information toll booth. When an enterprise software buyer or a premium consumer searches for a technical comparison between two major industry platforms, they land directly on your optimized digital asset, where they parse the data, find the absolute resolution to their purchase dilemma, and click your automated tracking link to execute their transaction. Furthermore, we must dissect the supreme law of zero-touch lifetime commission tracking and the structural integration of automated recurring affiliate programs. The unvetted retail entrepreneur destroys their passive income scale by promoting low-margin, one-off physical consumer goods that yield a tiny single-transaction reward, requiring a continuous flow of thousands of new customers every month just to maintain a baseline cash flow velocity. The sovereign architect focuses their strategic attention exclusively on enterprise-level software-as-a-service utilities, high-volume digital infrastructure networks, and premium cloud hosting platforms that operate via recurring subscription models. You structure your automated funnels to feed these specific recurring protocols so that when a corporate client clicks your tracking node
and activates their enterprise account, you capture a fixed percentage of their subscription invoice month after month for the entire lifecycle of their contract. The system transforms into an unhackable, self-sustaining financial stream that quietly extracts capital out of the global corporate ecosystem and drops it directly into your private treasury without you ever needing to handle customer support, manage product updates, or process operational returns. This programmatic automation transforms your affiliate networks into a collection of self-sustaining, high-yield digital annuities. Once your portfolio of comparison nodes, software matrices, and keyword-optimized referral funnels is fully deployed across the global web, the aggregation of traffic and transaction credit becomes a permanent, self-perpetuating cycle that operates with complete structural predictability. Your digital properties quietly harvest global buyer intent, clear high-margin commission revenues, and track automated payouts 24 hours a day without requiring a single hour of manual operational intervention from your leadership. The entire framework functions as an invisible digital river that continually captures commerce energy and redirects it straight into your vault, ensuring that your sovereign economic empire compounds its underlying net worth in absolute stability, absolute serenity, and eternal financial freedom. To advance into the sixth layer of mechanical capitalization, you must master the structural engineering of digital real estate and the tactical deployment of proprietary intellectual property licensing models that secure permanent, high-volume royalty distributions from enterprise networks without requiring your active manual intervention. The average independent creator or digital asset builder enters the marketplace operating under the fragile assumption that to monetize their technical skills or intellectual assets, they must constantly perform active freelance consulting contracts, execute custom design tasks for clients, or exchange their physical labor for a one-off project fee. This active service delivery model is a catastrophic operational error that locks your psychological bandwidth into a continuous cycle of client micromanagement, transforming your daily schedule into an exhausting manual laboratory of continuous project execution. The sovereign completely rejects this transactional labor model. You look at the intellectual property landscape through the cold lens of systemic infrastructure, understanding that technical assets, such as specialized software frameworks, proprietary data architectures, digital code libraries, design plugins, and corporate brand assets can be completely decoupled from your physical presence and transformed into automated licensing nodes that generate high-margin recurring royalties 24 hours a day. This intellectual property licensing model requires the immediate implementation of the automated asset grant protocol and the total removal of custom development tasks from your enterprise pipeline. The Steel Mind focuses its developmental capital exclusively on building technical solutions that solve universal high-leverage friction points across an entire corporate sector.
You do not build custom software for a single client. You engineer modular software extensions, design pattern frameworks, specialized website themes, and automated database scripts that can be utilized by thousands of independent enterprises simultaneously. Once your proprietary asset library is fully engineered and deployed onto cloud-based digital marketplaces, the entire delivery sequence is automated via programmatic license key generation systems. When an enterprise developer or a corporate design agency across the world purchases a commercial license to utilize your proprietary code library or technical asset, your automated gateway instantly validates the transaction, issues an encrypted digital license, and grants access to the files without requiring a single manual keystroke from your infrastructure, allowing your treasury to capture clean royalty capital in absolute isolation. Furthermore, we must dissect the supreme law of algorithmic developer placement and the structural weaponization of established software ecosystem platforms. The unvetted asset creator attempts to drive license acquisitions by launching expensive, unpredictable outbound marketing campaigns to independent corporations, which introduces extreme financial volatility and continuously eats into their net profit margins. The sovereign architect completely bypasses this expensive discovery friction by systematically launching their automated licensing matrices directly within established global developer ecosystems and extension marketplaces that possess massive pre-existing high-intent enterprise buyer traffic lanes. You deploy highly optimized keyword tags, precise documentation layouts, and hyper-compressed utility descriptions that hook into the native search engines of these software platforms, forcing their recommendation logic to push your digital assets to the absolute center of the enterprise buyer's field of vision. By designing digital plugins or data models that cater to dominant global platform networks, you ensure an immediate, consistent flow of organic licensing transactions that run entirely independent of your daily energetic inputs. This programmatic automation transforms your intellectual property catalog into a collection of self-sustaining, high-yield digital annuities. Once your portfolio of optimized technical assets, digital extension frameworks, and software licensing nodes is fully index-linked across global developer networks, the distribution of royalty capital becomes a permanent, self-perpetuating cycle that operates with complete structural predictability. Your digital assets quietly capture transactions, clear high-margin royalty streams, and execute automated deployment subroutines 24 hours a day without requiring a single hour of manual operational
Supervision from your leadership. The entire framework functions as an invisible digital toll booth that continuously extracts capital out of the global corporate ecosystem and drops it straight into your private vault, ensuring that your sovereign economic empire compounds its underlying net worth in absolute stability, absolute serenity, and eternal financial freedom. To advance into the seventh layer of mechanical capitalization, you must master the structural engineering of physical real estate autarky and the tactical acquisition of high-yield spatial assets managed entirely through insulated corporate property networks that liquidate monthly rental profits into your treasury without your personal presence ever entering the local asset theater. The average real estate investor or retail property owner enters the physical brick-and-mortar space operating under the fragile assumption that to secure reliable passive rental returns, they must personally manage tenant relations, coordinate structural property maintenance, and handle low-level administrative disputes within their local market. This hyperactive property management style is a catastrophic operational error that chains your premium neurological bandwidth to continuous real estate micromanagement, transforming your daily schedule into an exhausting manual laboratory of domestic tenant intervention. The sovereign completely rejects this localized property model.
you view physical real estate through the cold lens of systematic capital allocation, understanding that real estate can be completely dematerialized into high-density cash flow matrices by executing strict contractual agreements with elite third-party property management firms who absorb all tenant-facing friction and isolate your physical vessel from everyday operational noise. This hands-off real estate architecture requires the immediate implementation of the systemic outsourced management protocol and the total removal of personal liability from your property pipeline. The Steel Mind focuses its capital allocation exclusively on real estate nodes that exist as pure, high-yield financial annuities. You do not purchase residential or commercial properties to become an active landlord. You engineer an institutional framework where professional management corporations handle tenant acquisition, lease contract underwriting, monthly payment collection, and emergency facility maintenance. Once a premium multifamily residential complex or a high-volume commercial storage network is successfully acquired and index-linked to your private holding corporation, your property manager assumes absolute operational accountability. The third-party firm acts as a structural buffer, absorbing the chaotic interpersonal complaints of your tenants, clearing all localized maintenance expenses, and executing direct monthly programmatic capital transfers into your sovereign treasury, allowing your private vault to capture premium asset dividends in absolute isolation and deep security.
Furthermore, we must dissect the supreme law of algorithmic market selection and the structural weaponization of demographic traffic lanes. The unvetting retail investor attempts to acquire properties based on personal aesthetic preferences or sentimental local attachments, which introduces extreme geographical volatility and continuously exposes their capital to regional economic contractions. The sovereign architect completely bypasses this localized bias by systematically launching their asset acquisition matrices within high-velocity target growth zones that possess massive pre-existing population influxes and structural supply shortages. You deploy data-driven demographic filters, macroeconomic employment metrics, and precise, localized zoning assessments to identify premium, undervalued real estate nodes that command immediate rental demand. By focusing exclusively on high-utility defensive real estate, such as automated self-storage complexes, commercial logistics hubs, and long-term corporate medical offices, you ensure an unyielding, consistent flow of organic rental income that runs entirely independent of your daily energetic inputs or local economic adjustments. This programmatic automation transforms your physical property catalog into a collection of self-sustaining, high-yield corporate annuity grids. Once your portfolio of optimized spatial assets and commercial real estate structures is fully stabilized under institutional management networks, the collection and distribution of lease capital becomes a permanent, self-perpetuating cycle that operates with complete structural predictability. Your spatial holdings quietly capture monthly rental income, clear high-margin net profits, and execute automated equity compounding subroutines 24 hours a day without requiring a single hour of manual operational supervision from your leadership. The entire framework functions as an unyielding physical toll booth that continuously extracts capital out of the regional consumer ecosystem and drops it straight into your private vault, ensuring that your sovereign economic empire compounds its underlying net worth in absolute stability, absolute serenity, and eternal financial freedom. To advance into the eighth layer of mechanical capitalization, you must master the structural engineering of automated equity matrices and the tactical construction of a high-yield dividend portfolio that locks down permanent programmatic cash distributions from globally dominant blue-chip corporations without requiring a single hour of your manual enterprise supervision.
The average retail investor or independent wealth builder approaches the liquid capital markets with an insecure, speculative mindset, spending their valuable neurological bandwidth staring at volatile daily stock charts, reacting to high-frequency market rumors, and executing frantic short-term trades to capture capital gains. This hyper-reactive trading style is a catastrophic operational error that breaches your cognitive firewall. It treats the stock market as a casino, transforms your conscious mainframe into a high-stressed
Speculator and continuously exposes your liquid corporate reserves to sudden macroeconomic liquidation events. The sovereign architect completely rejects this speculative software. You view the public capital markets through the cold lens of systematic infrastructure, treating an equity share not as a volatile pieces of paper to be flipped, but as a permanent legal title to a self-operating corporate cash machine that possesses a massive global consumer monopoly, robust pricing power, and an unyielding commitment to distribute its excess net profits directly to its sovereign shareholders via programmatic dividend transfers. This automated portfolio architecture requires the immediate implementation of the algorithmic dividend compounding protocol and the total removal of qualitative market forecasting from your asset mainframe. The Steel Mind focuses its capital allocation exclusively on high-density elite organizations that possess an unbroken multi-decade track record of continuously increasing their corporate dividend payouts through every single phase of the macroeconomic cycle. You do not allocate capital into hyper-speculative technology startups or over-leveraged asset structures that burn through cash flow to sustain their nominal valuations. You systematically acquire premium shares in defensive global monopolies that control critical economic infrastructure, such as consumer staples networks, international logistics hubs, and primary utility grids. Once your capital is deployed across these highly insulated enterprise nodes, you activate an automated dividend reinvestment subroutine within your brokerage gateway. The exact millisecond a cash dividend is distributed into your account, the automated system instantly recaptures that capital and reinvests it back into fractional shares of the same corporate monopoly, generating a highly potent self-perpetuating compounding engine that continuously expands your equity baseline and increases your automated cash flow velocity, while you remain completely uninvolved in the low-level noise of market transactions. Furthermore, we must dissect the supreme law of systematic downside immunization and the tactical deployment of non-correlated liquid treasury assets. While the unvetted retail crowd panics during a severe market contraction, frantically liquidating their long-term equity positions at steep structural discounts to preserve short-term cash, the sovereign operates with an insulated, multi-layered defensive balance sheet. You structure your capital matrix so that your high-yield equity assets are securely backed by automated short-term sovereign treasury ladders and premium liquidity nodes that operate completely independent of stock market volatility. When a major asset liquidation cycle manifests across the global economy, your automated treasury ladders systematically mature and release fresh, high-density capital streams directly into your command portal. You do not use this cash to fund lifestyle liabilities. You execute a cold, clinical rebalancing sequence, vacuuming up premium, cash-generating dividend stocks at historic valuations. Discounts from the terrified public, permanently turning their emotional panic into the precise raw fuel that compounds your long-term passive economic sovereignty. This systematic capital allocation transforms your liquid portfolio into a collection of self-sustaining corporate annuity grids that operate with absolute mechanical precision. Once your equity matrix is fully structured, diversified across uncorrelated global jurisdictions, and locked into automated reinvestment programs, the generation of cash distribution becomes a permanent, self-perpetuating cycle that runs entirely independent of your physical presence or energetic inputs.
Your portfolio quietly harvests profits from millions of daily economic transactions across the global marketplace and drops clean, high-margin capital straight into your private treasury 24 hours a day, ensuring that your sovereign economic empire compounds its underlying net worth in absolute stability, absolute serenity, and eternal financial freedom. To advance into the ninth and ultimate layer of mechanical capitalization, you must transition your focus from individual asset creation to the permanent institutionalization of your passive economic empire and the execution of the centralized sovereign dashboard protocol across the multi-generational horizon. True capital engineering is never a temporary project to capture a short-term stream of subscription, digital ad, or rental revenue. It is a permanent structural reorganization of your conscious existence, designed to endure through every volatile phase of the global marketplace. The surrounding financial network will always remain a fragile matrix governed by high-octane entropy, meaning that the moment you relax your input filters, fall into premature lifestyle inflation, or allow your personal presence to drift back into the manual operations of your enterprise, your automated cash machine will slowly experience structural friction and decay. The average retail business builder matches their transition into profitability with an immediate return to hyperactive manual micromanagement, foolishly attempting to personally control every administrative note because their ego is addicted to the illusion of workplace importance. The sovereign architect completely rejects this behavioral regression. You understand that your ultimate value does not exist within the execution of manual tasks, but within the cold, detached preservation of the overarching system logic and the continuous compounding of your insulated liquid reserves. This final integration requires the immediate implementation of the sovereign dashboard subroutines and the absolute reduction of your interactive perimeter down to macro data evaluation. You treat your entire portfolio of software utilities, automated media channels, print-on-demand networks, affiliate portals, digital licensing nodes, and institutionally managed real estate structures as a single, synchronized, multi-jurisdictional financial server that runs entirely independent of your physical, biological inputs. You do not open individual customer support tickets.
Review baseline code lines or answer tenant communication channels. You log into your encrypted administrative dashboards once a week for less than 60 minutes to perform a cold forensic audit of the primary financial variables. You analyze the net recurring revenue velocity, monitor the aggregate customer retention curves, map the liquidity burn rates, and audit the automated dividend reinvestment logs with the unblinking eye of an algorithmic allocator. If a specific asset node displays a structural deviation or a drop in compounding velocity, you do not step into the laboratory to fix it yourself. You issue short, downward-inflected written commands to your outsourced technical partners or institutional management corporations, forcing them to execute immediate administrative corrections while your internal neurological bandwidth remains completely untouched and perfectly stabilized in a state of absolute serenity. Furthermore, we must architect the final multi-generational transmission of the automated cash machine frameworks and the absolute preservation of your imperial economic heritage. The ultimate vulnerability of an elite system designer does not occur within the competitive counterplays of their corporate rivals or the shifting regulations of state-appointed matrices. It manifests when they fail to insulate their descendants from the soft, fragile conditioning of the collective crowd. If you spend your adult life constructing an unhackable, self-operating capital machine, but allow your heirs to grow up with porous psychological defenses, a sentimental employee mindset, and a submissive dependency on external social validation, your vertical empire will be completely hollowed out, split up, and liquidated by reactive retail actors within a single generation change.
The sovereign manages generational succession with the exact same zero-tolerance discipline used to optimize their software applications. You do not grant unearned capital allocation rights or absolute administrative authority to unvetted familial assets. You force your successors to master the architecture of systems early, training their conscious minds to isolate primary variables, filter out media noise, and manage automated distribution funnels under conditions of simulated stress. You ensure that command keys to your private vaults are unlocked exclusively when their nervous system demonstrates absolute mechanical alignment with the unyielding parameters of your steel blueprint, permanently securing your legacy against structural decay for eternity. Stand firmly at the absolute apex of your newly engineered financial fortress and observe the global economic matrix with the cool, detached perspective of a supreme master architect. Look back through the historical timelines of your consciousness and observe the old, unvetted version of your physical vessel, the porous manual worker who lived in constant submission to the clock, trading limited biological hours for linear fiat paper, and realize that that fragile entity has been permanently liquidated from reality. Your baseline software has been completely rewritten, leaving zero residue over your current trajectory. You have stepped across the final threshold into a state of absolute capital autarky as the undisputed legislator and owner of your reality. Your assets are fully insulated, your systems are automated, your funnel logic is closed loop, and your sovereign frame dictates the absolute pacing of your life timeline. You no longer move through the landscape hoping for soft market parameters, cooperative banking institutions, or pleasant economic trends to sustain your vision. You are the primary cause, the unlit engineer of order, the frozen monolith who converts global consumer activity into eternal institutional wealth. Carry this magnificent, unyielding frequency into every corporate sanctuary you command, every digital class you capture, and every moment of profound, quiet freedom. Welcome the changing world cycles with a cold, knowing interior smile. You have successfully constructed a self-sustaining empire of mechanical capitalism and absolute silent authority. The architecture is finished, the cash machine is permanently sealed, and the throne of financial sovereignty is yours for eternity. To permanently bridge the operational gap between initial automated asset deployment and absolute institutional market dominance, you must master the structural engineering of predictive macro allocation and the tactical insulation of your automated treasury systems from the hidden structural fees and sudden clearinghouse freezes that frequently manifest during low-velocity credit contractions across the global banking matrix. The average independent systems architect or digital portfolio builder celebrates prematurely when their initial micro-utilities and automated media funnels generate their first high-density capital distributions, foolishly allowing that newly captured cash to sit idle within standard retail processing gateways or highly exposed commercial bank accounts. This administrative negligence is a catastrophic operational failure that breaches your physical asset firewall. It leaves your hard-earned capital entirely vulnerable to unilateral platform audits, rolling reserve lockouts, and sudden overnight regulatory shifts that can instantly paralyze your cash flow velocity and wipe your operational leverage from the board. The sovereign completely rejects this porous storage methodology, treating every unit of incoming capital not as a static metric to be admired on a digital screen, but as a dynamic, high-velocity resource that must be immediately rerouted through automated webhook triggers into pre-engineered legal structures, offshore holding accounts, and self-custodial physical reserve nodes that sit far outside the regulatory suction of the domestic matrix. This financial fortification requires the immediate implementation of the algorithmic conversion protocol and the total exclusion of regional fiat volatility from your long-term storage servers. You do not allow your automated cash machine to hold soft, depreciating global currencies that are subject to chronic purchasing power decay and institutional inflation spikes. You program your payment gateways to automatically swap incoming consumer capital into high-density defensive assets.
Exact millisecond a transaction clears your interface, you hard-code automated subroutines that split your net profit margins, routing a fixed percentage into short-term sovereign debt ladders, a fixed percentage into physical gold storage vaults managed by independent non-banking custodians, and a fixed percentage back into the continuous development of your proprietary software frameworks. By automating this wealth distribution loop, you ensure that your imperial treasury compounds its baseline strength entirely in the background, completely insulated from the frantic emotional decisions of central banking committees and retail market panics. Your financial perimeter operates as a heavy, self-sustaining, closed-loop thermodynamic system that continually harvests consumer energy across the web, converts it into permanent, undegradable economic sovereign power, and locks it away behind an impenetrable wall of decentralized corporate protection. Furthermore, we must dissect the supreme law of systematic redundancy design and the absolute liquidation of single-point infrastructure failures. The unvetted retail entrepreneur constructs their passive income pipeline upon an incredibly fragile foundation, relying on a single cloud hosting provider, a single third-party payment processor, and a single digital marketplace to distribute their intellectual property nodes. When that single platform unilaterally modifies its algorithmic terms of service, suspends your master account due to an unverified customer complaint, or increases its transactional processing fees, your entire automated cash machine undergoes immediate structural collapse, leaving your matrix entirely castrated. The sovereign architect engineers absolute structural redundancy into every single layer of their digital infrastructure. You build your software applications to run simultaneously across multiple, independent cloud servers. You integrate dual payment gateway protocols that automatically shift transaction traffic if one processor experiences operational friction, and you syndicate your media and digital licensing properties across dozens of global decentralized networks simultaneously. By permanently multiplying your external deployment vectors, you strip the matrix platforms of their capacity to manipulate or freeze your pipeline, ensuring that your automated cash generation engine remains completely unyielding, unhackable, and eternally functional regardless of the chaotic shifts occurring within the global digital ecosystem. To achieve the ultimate synchronization of your automated financial fortress, you must master the advanced engineering of systematic legal insulation and the tactical installation of cross-border corporate shell structures that completely decouple your personal civil identity from your underlying asset matrix. The average independent software engineer or digital publisher operates under the naive assumption that keeping their automated income funnels tied to a localized domestic corporate entity is sufficient to protect their wealth from external predatory litigation or state extirpation.
Enforced asset seizures. This administrative vulnerability is a catastrophic structural error that exposes your entire pipeline to immediate castration if a hostile competitor, a malicious consumer, or an aggressive regulatory bureaucrat launches a legal strike against your personal name. They can instantly freeze your domestic processing accounts and halt your digital cash flow velocity in a single day. The sovereign completely rejects this high-exposure framework by operating through the absolute law of multi-jurisdictional division. You systematically fragment your passive income networks, placing your software utility nodes under a holding structure in one international jurisdiction, routing your automated media ad revenues through a separate corporate entity in a second sovereign zone, and storing your hard liquidity reserves within specialized private banking systems located in a third hyper-insulated financial sanctuary. By converting your enterprise into an unreadable, decentralized web of corporate nodes, you strip external hostile actors of their capacity to locate your central mainframe, ensuring that your automated cash machine continues to pump capital into your vaults regardless of any legal or localized geopolitical storms manifesting around your perimeter. This structural fragmentation requires the immediate implementation of the automated corporate compliance loop and the total elimination of human-dependent accounting oversight within your administrative pipeline. The steel mind does not spend valuable cognitive hours micromanaging monthly tax filings, corporate renewal documentations, or local state fees. You build automated bookkeeping algorithms and execute long-term retainer protocols with elite decentralized legal networks that monitor your international corporate perimeters entirely in the background. Your systems are programmed to automatically calculate localized compliance obligations, clear necessary operational tax margins, and file mandatory administrative updates via programmatic API linkages directly to the relevant digital government portals before a single human auditor ever flags your account. By automating the clinical maintenance of your corporate legal shield, you ensure that your structural protection remains dynamic, flawless, and completely unhackable, leaving your internal conscious focus entirely free to engineer new high-margin automation funnels. Furthermore, we must dissect the supreme law of automated optimization scaling and the tactical acquisition of complementary microassets to accelerate your baseline cash flow velocity. The unvetted retail entrepreneur attempts to expand their passive income kingdom by continuously building new platforms from absolute zero, which introduces massive developmental friction, burns through limited testing capital, and delays their profitability for multiple quarters. The sovereign architect accelerates their imperial expansion by executing cold programmatic corporate acquisitions. You deploy automated scrapers and monitor digital asset marketplaces to locate pre-existing under-optimized cash-flowing nodes, such as a lightweight browser plugin with a stable user base or an informational
Websites with high organic search engine rankings that the original creator is too exhausted to monetize or scale properly. You do not enter long, sentimental, emotional negotiations with the asset seller. You present a cold, data-driven binary purchase offer backed by immediate liquid capital deployment. Once the acquisition is executed, you instantly strip the asset of its bloated human maintenance overhead, inject your proprietary conversion funnels, update the automated payment gateways, and link the newly acquired traffic lanes directly into your centralized programmatic treasury matrix. Within 48 hours, an asset that was historically generating low variable revenues is fully integrated into your automated processing machinery, transforming into a high-velocity cash-generating turbine that pumps passive distributions into your private vault while you remain completely detached from its everyday operational life cycle. This continuous, systematic extraction of market equity is the ultimate hallmark of the elite financial architect. You do not work for capital, and you do not burn your biological cells to sustain an active enterprise. You sit behind an impenetrable wall of algorithmic logic, software automation, and corporate protection, observing the fluid movements of global commerce and building a massive, unyielding matrix of self-operating income streams that feed your multi-generational dynasty in absolute serenity, absolute privacy, and eternal sovereign command. Lock this unyielding frequency into your foundational operations and let the matrix bend submissively to your mechanical frame. To permanently seal your automated financial perimeter and ensure that your network remains completely optimized against any potential structural degradation, you must implement the supreme law of algorithmic cash flow distribution and the tactical liquidation of any residual systemic reliance on local economic variables.
The average retail asset manager operates with a deeply fragmented conscious framework, constantly tracking their automated revenue streams on a day-to-day basis and manually adjusting their personal lifestyle capital to match the short-term fluctuations of their corporate balance sheet. This behavioral inconsistency is a catastrophic error that introduces immediate emotional noise into your system. It forces your conscious servers to experience unnecessary micro-panic spikes when a specific digital asset node undergoes a minor algorithmic correction or a short-term transaction compression. The sovereign architect remains completely detached from these localized variations, maintaining a frozen, unyielding baseline of absolute financial homeostasis within their private sanctuary. You establish fixed, highly insulated personal distribution benchmarks that run completely independent of your monthly net profit velocity, ensuring that your biological vessel is continuously supplied with premium resource security, while the entirety of your excess corporate capital is automatically redirected into high-density compounding structures.
Matrices and decentralized wealth vaults located outside the traditional banking perimeter. This absolute insulation prepares your system for the clinical execution of the infinite systemic expansion loop, where your automated cash machine transforms into a fully closed autonomous capitalization grid that systematically expands its market territory while you remain in a state of absolute physiological rest. Your infrastructure operates with the cold mechanical certainty of an unlit processing engine. Customer intent is continuously captured through automated SEO channels. Transactions are instantly processed by encrypted payment systems. Products are fulfilled and distributed by programmatic print-on-demand or cloud delivery scripts. And corporate compliance is maintained through digital API linkages directly to international governance networks. Your conscious focus has been entirely liberated from the manual labor paradigm. You no longer trade your biological cells for fiat paper or spend your afternoon hours managing interpersonal employee friction within the workplace. Your existence has been completely elevated to the position of a supreme systemic legislator who monitors the macro data pipelines with cold analytical indifference, while your self-operating wealth machine forces the global commerce grid to feed your multi-generational legacy non-stop. Look across the vast digital and physical landscape of your newly constructed financial empire and realize that the transformation of your reality is now absolute and unalterable. The old, unvetted version of your vessel, the frantic manual worker who lived in continuous submissive dependency on linear employment wages, localized market stability, and external institutional approval, has been permanently liquidated from your operational servers. Their soft, reactive software has been entirely erased, leaving zero residue over your current trajectory, and your vertical empire stands as an unyielding monument to systematic discipline, mechanical capitalism, and absolute behavioral autarky. You are the primary cause, the unlit engineer of order, the frozen monolith who converts global consumer energy into eternal sovereign power. Carry this magnificent, unyielding frequency into every corporate sanctuary you oversee, every digital asset class you capture, and every profound moment of quiet, isolated freedom. Your perimeter is fully fortified, your systems are fully automated, your legal shield is completely optimized, and your private treasury is permanently locked behind an impenetrable firewall of decentralized protection. The modern financial matrix has been submissively engineered to bend to your master frame, and your absolute freedom is now an unalterable law of global physics. The long journey of structural assembly is completely finished, the automated cash machine is permanently sealed, and the supreme throne of financial sovereignty is yours to command for all eternity.
Go forth and rule your capital in absolute power, absolute clarity, and absolute peace.